So we've recently had new Melodious support announced. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk all about the new cards, and I'm going to show you a few combos for specifically that you can do with the new support. So we'll get right into it with the new cards. So we're going to start off with Refrain. This is a fantastic card. It is a pendulum. It is a scale 1. It's a level 4. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Melodious monster from your deck to your hand. So really good. Every deck wants to have a searcher like this, and this is a fantastic one. The second monster effect specifically, is if a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field while this card is face up in your extra deck, you can place this card in your pendulum zone, and you can only use each effect once per turn. So this is really cool because it means obviously if you use it as the fusion material for the fusion summon, you're going to get it straight back as a pendulum. And even if, like in the grind game, you fusion summon, you just get to get your scale back, which is really cool. The pendulum effect of this one is you can target a Melodious fusion monster you control, send a Melodious from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, increase its attack by the level times 200 until the end of the turn. So this is really cool. It's just a Foolish Burial with a little bit of extra text on it, and there's plenty of ways in Melodious to get cards out of the graveyard, which is really cool. The next card is Couplet. This is a level 5 scale 9. So the monster effect of this one is if this card is added to your hand except by your normal draw, you can reveal it and special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or graveyard. Card special summon itself since it is a level 5, but you do get to get access to your cards in graveyard and other monsters in hand, which is cool. If a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field while this card is face up in the extra deck, you get to place it as well, which is great. It's fantastic. Just getting your scales back for free. The pendulum effect of this one is slightly better than this monster effect, so you cannot pendulum summon monsters except light monsters. A little bit annoying, but not the biggest issue. This effect can't be negated. If you control no face-up monsters other than Melodious monsters, you can add a Melodious spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You only use this effect once per turn. This is really good because it goes with the new spells. So this is Melodious Concerto. It says fusion summon a fairy fusion monster, please, from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, field, and or your pendulum zones as material. And that's really cool. So obviously you could use the pendulum monsters that we just spoke about with this, and then they go straight back to the pendulum zones, which is insane. If a Melodious fusion monster is sent to your graveyard while this card is in there, except during the damage step, you can place this card on the bottom of the deck and then draw one card. So it also replaces itself, which is really cool. There's a lot of advantage you can just get from this. With this, add this, add this. Fusion summon into one of your fusions. These go back into the scales, and then when that fusion leaves the field, you just get a draw as well, which is absolutely insane. The other two new cards are in the extra deck, so we'll talk about Back first. This is Spectacular Back, the Melodious Maestra. It requires 2 Melodious monsters, so is what you are normally going to go into first. And it says if this card is special summoned, so not specifically fusion summoned, you can special summon 1 Melodious monster from your deck. So that's really cool. It means if you don't start with your searcher, you can special your starter from the deck. And if you did start with your starter, you get to the rest of your deck, which is insane. Melodious monsters from your deck, your Melodious fusion monsters activated effects cannot be negated while you control this fusion summoned card. Amazing. This card definitely needed some text on it, which meant you can't negate it. But yeah, that's really cool. The next effect is if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodious monster in your graveyard except for another copy of itself and special summon it in defense position. So not only does it special summon from the deck, when it leaves the field or goes to graveyard, you just get to special summon a guy back from graveyard as well. Absolutely insane. This card is a 10 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic. The next fusion monster is Flowering Etile, the Melodious Grand Choir. It requires a Melodious Maestra and 2 Melodious monsters. Quick effect, you can banish any number of Melodious monsters you control until the end phase. Then you can return up to that many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. So this is a non-targeting, non-destruction removal that can remove multiple threats at the same time. It's a quick effect, absolutely insane, and everything comes back in the end phase. We've seen how good cards like SP is, even when you're banishing your own stuff, just because when they come back, your opponent didn't have an opportunity to get rid of them, so you're so far ahead if they don't kill you, which is absolutely insane. You only use that effect once per turn. If this face-up fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field by your opponent, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck, except for another copy of itself. So this means that if your opponent does manage to remove this card somehow, you can just summon out another copy of Spectacular Back, which then special summons a Melodious monster from the deck because it triggers on special summon, not just on fusion summon. So you could summon the Searcher, and the Searcher could then add a copy of Couplet, and then Couplet could activate its effect, reveal itself, and special summon back a level 4 from the hand or the graveyard. So you could summon something like a songstress, and then songstress can use this effect when it's special summoned to add back a guy from the graveyard, which is absolutely ridiculous. Speaking of songstress, let's start talking about the other Melodious monsters. I'm going to assume you guys don't know what most of the Melodious cards do. So Soprano Melodious Songstress has two effects. When it's special summoned, you can target a Melodious in your graveyard and add it to your hand. That is a hard once per turn. The second effect is once per turn you can fusion summon a Melodious fusion monster using materials on the field, and that is a soft once per turn. So this just allows you to fusion summon, which is amazing. Cannon and Sonata both basically have the same effect. So Cannon, if you control a Melodious monster, you can special summon it from the hand, but you can only special summon it once per turn that way. And it also has the effect that you can target a Melodious monster you control and change its battle position if you want to do that for some reason. Sonata is also a free special summon if you control Melodious. It boosts the attack of all fairies by 500 attack and 500 defense. And this one is not a once per turn to summon. So both just special summon themselves and both have like a little bonus effect. Elegy and Aria are very important to the deck and what the deck used to do exclusively. So Elegy, special summoned Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Absolutely insane. And if this card was special summoned, all fairy type monsters you control gain 300 attack. So it's a little boost as well. This paired with Aria, which says while the special summon card is on the field, Melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted by card effects or be destroyed by battle. Which means if you have both of these on the field, your Melodious monsters can't be targeted, can't be destroyed by battle, and they can't be destroyed by card effects, which makes them all basically towers, which is absolutely insane. Next card is Tam Tam. This card says if this card is special summoned while you control a Melodious monster, you can add a polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That is not a once per turn effect. It's not even well, I guess it's kind of a soft once per turn effect because you have to keep special summoning it. But you can just add poly and then add it back from graveyard, which means if you were to discard the polymerization or use it for any reason, you can just add it straight back again if you summon Tam Tam again. The second effect of this card is if this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion material for the fusion summon of a monster, you can target one Melodious monster you control, it loses 500 attack, and if it does, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Also not a once per turn effect, so this deck does have a way of winning in time. The next card is Shapina. Once per turn, target a light fairy in your graveyard, add it to your hand, but you cannot activate non-light monster effects during the turn you activate this effect. Also a soft once per turn, so there are plenty of ways of getting this back out of the graveyard and summoning it again, so you can just keep adding back your guys. For spells, we're playing Free Ostinato. This is essentially Brand of Fusion. So if you control no monsters, you can fusion summon a Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck using two monsters from your hand and or deck as fusion material. During the end phase of this turn, destroy the monster fusion summon by this effect, and if you do, if all the fusion materials that were used for its fusion summon are in the graveyard, you can special summon all of them. So this is absolutely insane. You'll notice there's no once per turn clause in this card, which means if your opponent ashes this and you have a second one, we're still doing it. First movement solo. If you control the monsters, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your deck, but you can't special summon monsters other than Melodious the turn you use this effect. This is still good enough to play. You activate it, you special summon your Searcher, and you're off to the races. We talked about Concerto, and there's nothing else really Melodious based here. We're playing the one poly, and then we're playing just a wealth of non-engine. We'll quickly talk about the rest of the extra decks. We're playing two Bloom Harvest. This card requires two fairy monsters, and it says if this card is link summoned, you can discard one card, special summon two Melodious monsters with different levels from your deck. Two zones this card points to in defense position, but you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate its effect except for Melodious monsters, and you only use this effect once per turn. If a Melodious monster this card points to attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So this is insane. Special summon two Melodious monsters from your deck with different levels, which means we can special summon out our Elegy and our Aria, or if we haven't had access to our Pendulums, we can special summon both of those, or we can special summon this Shapina. So plenty of options. This card's absolutely insane, and is probably going to be the card your opponent wants to Ash and Imperm. We'll talk about the other fusions. So we're playing one Bloom Diva, one Bloom Prima, and one Schuberta. We'll start with Schuberta, since it's the one you'll probably be using the most. Two Melodious monsters is the material. During either player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them, and if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each, and this effect can only be used once while this card is face up in the field. Fantastic against Unchained, fantastic against Tyr. Plenty of ways this card can be very useful. It's just 3 DD Crows. We'll now talk about Bloom Diva, which is essentially a Mekanko card. So it requires a Maestra and a Melodious monster. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, and you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. If this card battles a special summoned monster after damage calculation, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between the original attack of that opponent's monster and this card, and if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. So it's like a Mekanko on crack. Cool. We've got Bloom Prima, the Melodious Choir. This also requires a Maestra and one or more Melodious monsters. It gains 300 attack for each fusion material used for its fusion summon, and it can make a second attack during each battle phase. If this fusion summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodious monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, so it floats a little bit as well. This is just going to be a way of OTKing your opponent. Like if you made this with, say, try and do the maths, 3 or 4 materials, and then you use the effect of Refrain to boost it and it attacks twice, it'd be very easy for you to clear up a field or just completely OTK your opponents. The other cards in the extra deck we are playing is 1 SP and 1 Typhon, because you need to this format, 1 Underworld Goddess, just to remove like Expelling Noir, and we're playing a Guardian Chimera since we are playing Poly and we can make this card, 1 Baguska and 1 Zeus, which is really cool. So, we'll go into the combos. We've got 4 of them today. So we're going to start with a 1-card combo using Ostinato. So we're going to start by activating our Ostinato and sending a Tantan and an Elegy from deck to graveyard. And we're going to special summon out our fusion monster, the Buck. I keep forgetting these guys' names. From here, we can use Buck and we can use Tantan. Tantan to do 500 damage to chain block the back, despite the fact it can't be really negated. And we're going to summon out a copy of Refrain. From here, we're going to use Refrain's effect and not banish the top card of our deck, but add to our hand a copy of Couplet. From here, we can reveal our Couplet in our hand to special summon back one of these monsters from the graveyard. In this case, we're going to summon the Tantan, and we can use Tantan's effect to add a copy of Polymerization. From here, we're going to activate the Couplet, and we're going to add a copy of Concerto from our deck to our hands, and then we're going to link off the Fusion and our Tam to go into a copy of Bloom. From here, we're going to go Chainlink 1 Bloom, discarding the Polymerization, and Chainlink 2 the back in our graveyard to special summon back out the Tam, to special summon out a Songstress, and no, we're not summoning these. We're summoning an Aria, and we're summoning a, I forget the name, a copy of Shapina. On the next chain, we are going to be able to use the effect of Tam to add back this Polymerization. We discarded off the Bloom Divas, which is essentially like we didn't discard anything at all. And then we can use the effect of the Shapina to add back this Elegy. From here, we are going to use Concerto to use the Shapina and the Pendulum monsters on our field to go into a copy of the Grand Choir, I guess I'm going to call this card. From here, we can trigger both of our pendulums to add them back to the pendulum scales. And from here, we can pendulum summon out our copy of Elegy, guaranteeing we have the lock. And now we could use the Polymerization using the link and the monster on board to go for a copy of Shaberta. So this end board doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually quite good. So what we have is our monsters can't be targeted or destroyed by battle, and they can't be destroyed by card effects. We have a bounce of 4 cards by banishing all 4 of our monsters, and we have a DD Crow for free, and of course we have this that floats, and if our fusions do hit graveyard some way, we have Concerto in graveyard, which will allow us to draw a card, which is, I think, really quite good. Like, not being able to target one monster or destroy it is quite difficult. Having 4 on the field is something else. I guess if you had like a non-targeting removal for the Aria specifically, then you could start targeting cards with stuff like Unicorn and SP. But if they do challenge your board like that, you can just go, I'm going to activate Grand Choir, I'm going to banish everything, I'm going to bounce a bunch of your stuff, and we'll go again next turn, which I think is quite cool. The next combo is going to be 1 copy of Refrain. So we're going to start by normal summoning our Refrain and using the effect to add a copy of Couplet to hand, and then we are going to scale the Couplet and add a copy of Concerto. From here, we're going to use Concerto's effect using both of our pendulums to go into the back, and we can use the back and the 2 pendulums in sequence, putting the pendulums back in the pendulum zones. There's no way of doing this from the extra deck on Dawning Book, which is really annoying, but we're going to summon a Tam off of the back, which is going to add a copy of Polymerization. From here, we can Foolish Burial a copy of Aria with the pendulum, and then we can link into a copy of Bloom. Chainlink 1 Bloom, discarding the Polymerization. Chainlink 2 back, Chainlink 3 the Concerto, or the other way around, however you want to do it. And we're going to summon out the Tam, the Elegy, and the Shapina, and we're going to draw a copy of Triple Tactics Talent. In the next chain, we can use the Tam to add back a Polymerization, and then we can use the Shapina to add back the Aria. From here, we can activate Polymerization using the Shapina, the Link, and the other monster on boards, the Tam, to go into this guy. And then we can pendulum summon out the Aria. So this is pretty much the same end board as the last one. However, we don't have the DD Crows, sorry. So we have up to 3 bounces with our 3 monsters, and we also have the lock that our opponent can't do things, which is cool. We'll go to the next combo, and this is going to be a Songstress plus a monster we can special summon. In this case, it's Cannon. So we're going to normal summon our Songstress, special our Cannon, and use the effect of Songstress to go into the back. From here, we can use back to special summon out the Searcher, and we can add a copy of Couplet. From here, we can reveal the couplet in hand and special summon back one of these guys. So we're going to special summon back the songstress. From here, we can use songstress effect to add back the canon. It's almost as if we didn't use any cards. From here, we can place a card in our pendulum sail and use the effect to search for a concerto. And then we can link our pendulum and our songstress to go into bloom and use the effect discarding the canon we added back to special summon an elegy and a chapina. From here, we're going to use the chapina to add back the soprano, and then we're going to use the concerto to use 3 monsters on our field to go for the bounce card. Again, I can't remember these guys' name. They're all too similar. The Grand Choir. From here, we're going to use both of our guys in the extra deck as well as our fusion monster in the graveyard, special summoning out this copy of chapina again, and putting both of our pendulums in the scales like we've done multiple times already. From here, we can use the Foolish Burial effect to send the aria and then the chapina to add back the aria. And then we can pendulum summon out our aria and our songstress from our hand and use the effect to fusion summon since it is a soft once per turn and go into a copy of Schiberto. So this end board is slightly stronger than the last one. It is 5 monsters on field, so we have 5 bounces with our Grand Choir, and we have our lock with Aria and Elegy, and we have our 3 DD Crows, as well as having the Chapina as follow-up, which is quite cool. And obviously we also just have Concerto and Graveyard, so we get a draw at some point as well, which is really cool. We'll go into the last combo here, and this is probably the worst case scenario one, which is going to be 2 copies of Cannon and Ash Blossom. So it's essentially, can you put 2 Melodious monsters on field and do you have a discard? So we're going to start by Norman Cannon, special summoning a Cannon, and going into a copy of the Melodious Link. Discarding this Ash Blossom to summon out the Searcher and an Elegy. From here, we can use the Elegy to search for a copy of Couplet, and then we can reveal the Couplet to special summon back a monster from our graveyard that we use to make the Link monster. In this case, it's going to be Cannon. We can then scale the Couplet to search for a Concerto, and we can use Concerto sending both of our pendulums to summon a copy of Back. From here, we can use Back as well as both of our pendulums, putting them into the pendulum zones, and special summoning off of our Back a copy of Tam Tam. From here, we could use Tam Tam's effect to add for a copy of Polymerization, and we can use the Foolish Burial effect of our Searcher Descended Aria, use the Cannon, the Fusion, and not the Link, keep sending the wrong cards to the graveyard, the Tam Tam, to go into our copy of Grand Choir. This triggers our Fusion and our Concerto in graveyard, so Concerto is going to put to the bottom of the deck and draw a card, and then we're going to summon out this Aria, which means, again, in this combo, we have the lock, and we have up to 4 bounces because we have 4 of our Melodious monster on the field, and in this case we happen to draw an Ash Blossom, which is quite cool. So yeah, that is, as I get connection back to Dueling Book, Melodious and the combos you can do with the new cards. I do hope you enjoyed. If you do, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, subscribing, because I'm sure we'll have more content like this quite soon. I think we've got like 4 videos coming up this week. So yeah, if you want to see new videos, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. See you later.